Keep your hands on the counter. Don't move.
I am just showing you my ID.
I told you to stay still. Don't try to intimidate me.
You're looking like a liability. We flagged this.
I have made no movement toward the exit.
Back up. Subject is armed and non-compliant.
Go ahead.
Elias Vance is a 52-year-old male, currently serving as the chief of detectives for the city's Metro Division. He earns a base salary of $165,000 and recently oversaw the closing of a $1.2 million property sale, the proceeds of which, a certified law firm check for $425,000, he is currently attempting to deposit into a personal savings account. Vance has spent 30 years in law enforcement, specializing in fraud and internal affairs. He understands the procedural requirements for check verification and is currently observing a systemic failure of those very protocols in real time. Bradley Simmons is a 44-year-old private security contractor. His personnel file reveals a failed attempt to enter the police academy in 2004 and 2006, citing psychological incompatibility and authority fixation in his final evaluations. He earns $52,000 a year and has been the subject of 3 internal bank complaints regarding the aggressive questioning of minority clients in the last 18 months. To Simmons, the dark-skinned man in the tailored wool coat represents a statistical anomaly that his cognitive bias identifies as a threat to be neutralized. Do you believe private security guards should be legally allowed to detain citizens on private property based on suspicion alone? Or should that power be strictly reserved for sworn peace officers? Share your reasoning in the comments below. The Sterling First National Branch is located in the Northwood District, an area defined by rapid gentrification over the last decade. The interior is a study in calculated prestige, vaulted ceilings, Italian marble flooring, and the muted hum of high-efficiency climate control. The scent of expensive floor wax and ozone from the heavy-duty bill counters fills the air. Outside, the temperature is 42 degrees, but inside, the atmosphere is reaching a different kind of boiling point. This neighborhood was once the heart of the city's industrial sector, now replaced by luxury lofts and tech hubs, creating a friction point between the old guard of the banking establishment and the increasingly diverse demographic of the city's upper echelon. Vance feels a sense of clinical safety because he is intimately familiar with the law. He knows that a certified check from a major law firm, presented with a valid state ID and a secondary federal ID, constitutes a standard, low-risk transaction. To him, the delay is a minor bureaucratic friction until Simmons intervenes. Simmons, however, interprets Vance's calm demeanor not as innocence, but as the coolness of a professional fraudster. This interpretation is rooted in a similar incident from February of the previous year, where Simmons successfully intercepted a forged $5,000 check from a different individual, an event he frequently cites to his peers as the highlight of his career. The teller, Sarah Jenkins, returns to the window, avoiding eye contact with Vance. The manager is currently on the phone with the issuing bank, sir. They're having trouble verifying the authenticity. The issuing bank is less than 6 blocks away, Vance says, his eyes remaining fixed on the security guard. A simple phone call to the senior partner listed on the check would resolve this in under 3 minutes. The teller retreats behind the bullet-resistant glass without answering. Her movement is hurried, suggesting she has been coached to treat Vance as a potential threat. "We have our own procedures, okay? Just wait," Simmons snaps, stepping 2 inches closer into Vance's personal space. Simmons's pupils are dilated, and the audio captures a slight tremor in his voice, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of a perceived confrontation. He is preparing for a physical engagement that has not yet been justified by Vance's behavior. "Your procedures do not include the physical intimidation of a client," Vance observes, his voice dropping an octave into a tone usually reserved for interrogation rooms. "I'm protecting the assets of this institution," Simmons replies, his chest expanding as he hitches his belt. "And right now, you're looking like a liability." The footage captures a subtle shift in Vance's posture. He transitions from a relaxed, leaning position to a balanced, upright stance, his center of gravity shifting to his midsection. He recognizes the shift in Simmons' behavior as a precursor to physical contact. The bank manager, Michael Sterling, exits a side office at this moment. He does not approach Vance directly, but stays behind the plexiglass barrier, flanked by a second, younger security guard who appears visibly uncomfortable. "Mr. Vance, is it?" Sterling asks, holding a photocopy of the check. We've decided to put a 10-day hold on this document while we conduct a forensic audit of the signature. That is a certified cashier's check, Vance states, his words articulated with precise phonetic clarity. By law, you are required to provide a specific reason for a hold of that duration on a certified instrument. The reason is, we don't recognize you and we don't recognize this firm, Sterling says, his voice carrying a dismissive edge. Now, Bradley will escort you out, and we will keep the check for further investigation. You will not be keeping the check, and I will not be leaving without a receipt for the seized property, Vance responds. The audio reveals Vance's breathing remains steady at approximately 12 breaths per minute. In contrast, Simmons' breathing has increased to 22, indicating a state of high arousal and readiness for combat. The manager's refusal to return the check constitutes an illegal seizure of private property, a fact Vance is acutely aware of. You're trespassing now, pal, Simmons says, reaching for Vance's elbow. Time to go the hard way. Do not touch me, Vance says. The warning is not a plea. It is a legal notification of the withdrawal of consent for contact. Simmons ignores the warning and initiates a, quote, 3-escort maneuver, intended to inflict pain and force compliance. Vance, utilizing his decades of defensive tactics training, performs a subtle pivot that neutralizes the grip without escalating into a strike. He's resisting. I need backup, Simmons yells, his voice cracking under the stress of the failed maneuver. The camera captures the second guard rushing forward, though he hesitates as he nears the struggle. Simmons, frustrated by his inability to control the older man, lunges at Vance's neck. Vance ducks the move, but Simmons manages to grab the lapel of the $2,000 wool coat, ripping the seam with a distinct audible tear. You are currently committing a battery, Vance says, as he is forced against the marble pillar. I'm detaining a suspect, Simmons shouts. He manages to get one handcuff on Vance's right wrist, the metal ratcheting loudly in the quiet lobby. The other customers have frozen in place, their gazes fixed on the floor or their phones. Vance does not fight back with strikes. He remains a tactic designed to make the use of force appear as clumsy and excessive as possible on camera. Get the other arm. He's got a concealed weapon, Simmons screams, spotting the bulge of Vance's holster under his coat. At this moment, the situation escalates from a civil dispute to a high-stakes tactical encounter. Simmons has seen the weapon. He does not call out quote 5 as a trained officer would. He uses it as a justification for the violence he has already initiated. The second guard joins in now, his fear of a weapon overriding his earlier hesitation. If a citizen is legally carrying a firearm and is being illegally detained by private security, does that citizen have the moral right to use force to defend themselves? Where is the line between lawful order and unlawful assault? Tell us in the comments. Simmons has Vance pinned against the pillar. The second guard is pulling at Vance's left arm, attempting to force it behind his back. The manager, Sterling, is seen on his desk phone, his face pale as he speaks to emergency dispatchers. I am a peace officer, Vance says, his voice muffled against the stone. My credentials are in my left breast pocket. Reach in slowly and verify. Yeah, right. And I'm the Pope, Simmons grunts, putting his knee into Vance's lower back to force him to the floor. The camera shows Vance's face striking the marble as he is taken down. A small laceration opens above his right eyebrow, a result of the sudden impact. The blood is bright red against the white stone, creating a stark visual record of the injury. Despite the pain, Vance does not curse or threaten. He understands that he is currently the most valuable piece of evidence in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I'm going for his gun, Simmons yells to the second guard. If you touch that firearm without a peace officer's commission, you are committing a felony in this state, Vance warns, his voice vibrating against the floor. Simmons hesitates for a fraction of a second. The legal terminology used by Vance is too specific, too accurate to be the ramblings of a common criminal. The second guard slows his movements, looking toward the door as the sound of sirens grows louder in the distance. The heavy glass doors of the bank swing open. 4 uniformed officers from the city's 4th precinct enter, weapons drawn but at the low ready position. They have been dispatched to a quote 6. Drop the weapon. Hands up, the lead officer, a 10-year veteran named Miller, commands. Simmons looks up, a grin of triumph on his face, oblivious to the shift in the room's energy. "I've got him secured. He's armed. He tried to pass a fake $500,000 check." Officer Miller approaches the group on the floor. He looks at the man pinned under Simmons' knee, then looks again. His posture collapses instantly, the tactical rigidity leaving his frame as he realizes the identity of the suspect. "Chief?" Miller asks, his voice barely audible over the bank's ambient noise. "Officer Miller," Vance says from the floor. "I'd appreciate it if you would instruct this individual to remove his knee from my spine. I believe I have a displaced disc." The silence that follows is absolute. The audio captures the sound of the HVAC system and the distant hum of traffic outside. Simmons's face undergoes a rapid transformation. The adrenaline-fueled flush drains away, leaving his skin a sickly, mottled gray. His grip on Vance's wrist slackens. His shoulders drop and his mouth hangs slightly open. He does not speak or offer an apology. He simply stares at the back of Vance's head as if looking at the end of his career. The manager, Sterling, has come out from behind the glass. He stops mid-stride, his eyes darting between the uniformed officers and the man they are now carefully, almost reverently, helping to his feet. He said he was an officer, but we couldn't verify." Sterling begins, his voice trailing off as Miller turns a cold, predatory gaze toward him. "You didn't verify the chief of detectives?" Miller asks. "Did you bother to look at his ID? Or did you just see the color of his skin and the size of the check?" Vance stands, brushing the dust and debris from his torn coat. He wipes the blood from his eye with a silk pocket square, his movements slow and deliberate. He does not look at Simmons or Sterling. He looks directly at Officer Miller's body camera. "Officer Miller, please secure the security footage from all angles," Vance says, his voice as calm as it was at the start of the encounter. "Then, I would like to file a formal complaint for aggravated battery, kidnapping under color of authority, and civil rights violations." The aftermath was not a swift explosion of justice, but a slow, grinding machine of litigation and administrative ruin. Internal Affairs arrived within 30 minutes of the arrest. By the end of the business day, the Sterling First National branch was cordoned off as a crime scene, with technicians mapping the blood spatter on the marble pillar. The bank's corporate headquarters in New York issued a standard statement expressing regret. But the damage was irreversible. The legal timeline stretched over 14 months. Elias Vance did not settle quickly. He forced the bank through the discovery phase, unearthing years of internal memos that highlighted a quote 8 that specifically targeted quote 9, involving what the documents called quote 10. This was the evidence that elevated the case from a simple mistake to a systemic civil rights conspiracy. Bradley Simmons was fired the following morning. Because he had used handcuffs and physical force without a valid legal basis, he was charged with felony false imprisonment and third-degree assault. His defense, that he was quote 11 quote, was dismantled by the chief's own testimony regarding the standards of private security conduct. Simmons eventually took a plea deal. 3 years of probation, a permanent ban from the security industry, and a personal judgment of $150. 000. Sterling First National faced a different kind of reckoning. The Federal Reserve and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency launched a joint probe into the branch's practices. They found a pattern of quote 12 that violated the Community Reinvestment Act. The branch was forced to close its doors permanently 6 months after the incident. The final settlement for Elias Vance was $14 million. Of that, $4 million went to attorney fees and legal costs, leaving Vance with a $10 million payout. Is a multi-million-dollar settlement justice, or does it simply pass the cost of bias onto the bank's other customers through fees and lower interest rates? How should these institutions be punished instead? Share your thoughts below. Today, Elias Vance has retired from the police force. He used a portion of his settlement to found a non-profit organization that provides free legal counsel to victims of banking discrimination. He lives on a private estate in the hills, far from the Northwood district. The scar above his eye remains, and he refuses to have it treated with laser surgery. He refers to it as a permanent reminder of the cost of an unverified assumption. Bradley Simmons lives in a small apartment 2 towns over. He works as a night shift janitor at a local high school. a job that requires no licensing and involves no authority over others. He is often seen sitting in his car during his break, staring at the screen of his phone, rewatching the Bodycam footage that has been uploaded to dozens of justice porn channels. He remains convinced, in the dark corners of his mind, that he was simply protecting the bank. Michael Sterling, the manager, was blacklisted from the banking industry. He now works in mid-level real estate, though he struggles to close deals in the city's more diverse neighborhoods. His name is permanently associated with the incident in every digital background check. In the end, the camera provided a reality that the antagonists tried to suppress. It captured the difference between a man who understood the mechanics of power and a man who merely craved its appearance. The marble in the Sterling First National lobby was cleaned, the blood was washed away, and the glass doors were eventually boarded up. But the footage remains, a clinical, detached record of the moment. A biased reality collided with the cold, hard facts of the law. Truth has a way of being verified, even when the bank refuses to honor the check. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.